Hello and welcome to Real Hi-Fi Help. In this video series, I am going to help you with transforming bad gear into good sound. Yes, it is possible thanks to me because I have descended from above, being blessed by God. No, um, I've heard a lot of gear, and I've heard it under an extreme amount of conditions and. I feel that a lot of people shouldn't suffer anymore, so that's why I'm making this series. So try and watch all of these videos from start to end. There's a lot of goodies for a lot of people on a lot of different classes with a lot of different gear. So don't feel offended by what I'm about to say. Try and use it for your own advantage. You don't have to be a super duper rich person to get a really good sound, but you can easily make a lot of changes for almost no money at all. Sometimes you can even make money by selling some pretend good gear and then just getting some of this instead and elevating your sound. So yeah, let's dig into it. I want you to have a better sound. So this is like one of the secret weapons, first secret weapons, Vandersteen 1CI speaker. On itself, it doesn't look very impressive. If you put it out from a wall 1-2 meters and from a side wall that's like 1-3 meters away from that, you wouldn't recognize that this is a good speaker. You know, you would just think like, oh my god, how can someone make a sound like this that is so bad? But if you have a smaller room and you put Vandersteen speakers relatively close to the back wall, I'm talking about 5, 10, 20, 30 centimeters usually towards the back wall, something in that area, you start to see, oh no, you start to hear sound that is a lot more natural, integrated, and just feels like a really big, awesome, expensive speaker. These speakers don't cost a lot. Can't remember the price. I don't know, something like $500 used, something like that. But you want them close to the back walls and the side walls. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because we're transforming bad gear into good sound. So this works with a lot of transistor gear out there, you know, even half bad shit gear. I'm talking about Vincent gear, I'm talking about Musical Fidelity, I'm talking about the lower models of Yamaha, Denon, Cyrus, Arkham, Pioneer, Sony. A lot of these normal transistor, shitty sounding types of things, you can actually make it a hell of a lot better. Even though it's not a very good sound, you can make it a hell of a lot better by using a speaker like this in a controlled room in those conditions that I just described. This is a speaker that has some kind of a time alignment thing going on, meaning that it reduces a lot of harshness to the sound, but still sounds very free and natural. Yeah, we're not talking about a speaker that usually costs $100,000 or $1,000,000, but we're talking about a speaker that typically would cost 5, 10, 15, 20 times the money. So, yeah, take this into consideration, especially if you have some lower class gear, or even if you have some mid class gear. You might be getting into Macintosh or Ear gear or Jadis, even, you know. This could still sound good on pretty good gear like that. So don't feel discouraged. No, help is here. It's just in a disguise of shitty bag speaker design that Vandersteen makes, but it's good sound. It's good sound. Don't let looks deceive you. This can sound a hell of a lot better than a lot of the more expensive speakers out there. So yeah, that's gonna help you. And like I said here in the comments, it could easily make your sound 2 or 5 times better than a more expensive speaker. And now we have its big brother. So the 2CE is just basically the same sound, just more solid, deeper bass. It's made for a room that's probably, instead of like 15 20 square meters, maybe even 25 with this if you're lucky. This is maybe made for rooms that are like 25 to perhaps 40 square meters. I would say usually about 20-25 square meters is ideal with these. And these are like really, really, really good value speakers. Of course, they probably cost like 1.5 times more than these speakers, but they are amazing with a lot of gear. And especially because it has so much bass, it actually sounds pretty good with a lot of shit gear out there. I mean, really, a lot of half bad gear, which we know the market is filled with. There is a lot of half bad gear out there that I'm not really willing to listen to anymore. But just be happy that I've listened to most gear on the market, and I can say that these speakers here, these two speakers, you can put a lot of good, a lot of medium, and a lot of bad equipment on it, and it's still gonna sound pretty awesome. So this is like the glue that you guys need in order to repair sound. It won't take it to like the craziest levels of sound, but you get so much value, you just wouldn't believe it. And yeah, I've heard it especially with Macintosh and YBA equipment, and it sounds really exceptionally good with those in particular. So let's just say we're on to another type of speaker here. Let's just say that you've got some pretty boring, gray, maybe a bit mechanical and like type of sound. You know, you want something that's a bit more powerful, that feels more lively and just fills you with confidence without having to use a ridiculous amount of money. So JBL, which I usually not am a pretty big fan of, I think they did an exception with this particular speaker. I feel that this speaker here can be used on a lot of half bad equipment, and I'm talking let's just say that we've got some old Pass Labs, some old Accuphase, some old Macintosh that is in the lower class. This could make it sound pretty good. This could waken up the sound, give it a bit more of color, of life, of just being able to play at high volumes. This has a very good ability to propel the sound out towards you and just sound like a really big live sound. A lot like Vandersteen speakers that we just saw up there. So this is not, don't think that you've ever listened to this speaker if you've listened to the original model, JBL, I can't remember what it's called, 100, I can't remember what the original is called, but the new one is called L100 Classic. And it's just so much more evolved than the original model. So much more layering, so much more resolution, so much more liveliness, and you can use it with a lot of half bad gear. So yeah, definitely take that into consideration. And yeah, maybe it isn't totally wife friendly, but hey, you know, you could still, I think it's like $4,000 in the US, which they're so lucky that they can get for only that price. I mean, us in Europe, sometimes we have to pay like $7,500 US dollars for the same speaker. But this does a lot of good. This does really a lot of good, and it's a pretty efficient speaker. You know, it even though it's only around 91 dB, it still feels more like a 94 dB speaker. So yeah, very good. And you don't need the back walls and the side walls too close for them to sound good. They actually sound good quite a bit away from the walls. But also notice that, yeah, when you have them closer to the side walls and the back walls, it just gives you more oomph, more control, more power. And yeah, very, very good speaker for making equipment that just half sucks seem pretty good. You know, I don't, you know when you've seen my reviews and I go like Lyngdorf, Meitner, not really sure, not really me. M-Labs, yeah, it's okay. Or DCS, it's like, yeah, it's good, does some good stuff. If I had gear like that, I would want to max it out by using gear like this, because it could just inject a lot of life that gear usually doesn't have. And it would just save you a lot of money. Suddenly you don't have to go from a Meitner to, I don't know, an Audio Note or Tube Guru or whatever that's better. You could still enjoy music, just have a decent, appropriate speaker, a bit like this. But yeah, just a very, very good sound that fits a lot of classes of speakers. And yeah, if you have a lot of money and you really want to max out your gear, I mean really, really want to max out gear like Macintosh, Pass Labs, Accuphase, stuff like that. Usually gear that I'm not so crazy about, but yeah. Also, if you've got like Audioflight, I know for a fact that Audioflight sounds ridiculously good with a lot of these Rockport speakers. And yeah, you know, everything's relative. So you can also make Rockport speakers sound bad, like for example this guy has done. If he's taken the speaker like 5 meters away from the back wall, I don't know how far it is, but you know, you can also trash a very good set of speakers just by doing that. But yeah, this is for people that have a lot of money, but they like gear like Macintosh and Pass Labs and Accuphase. They like stuff like that, and I get it. And maybe Audioflight. This sounds good with a lot of that. I will call it, don't be offended, I will call it pretend hi-fi gear. But this will really make a lot of that gear a lot more digestible and go towards that, you know, intended original sound that Macintosh, Pass Labs, Accuphase, Audioflight had in mind. And it will, you know, a lot of people owning better gear, and I'm just gonna say Audio Note, Tube Gear, Spectral, Negra, they're even gonna look at you with this speaker combined with that gear and go like, yeah, actually sounds pretty good. And if you can make them impressed by gear that they usually don't like, you know it's good. Okay, you know it's good. So it took me a long time to find this, but yeah, Rockport has a really good fit with a lot of these high-end, or as I would call it, pretend high-end brands. And yeah, Rockport sounds, believe it or not, even better when you have these transparent cables on, because you have it in the Rockport speaker, and it just works really good with these types of brands that I really don't like in general. You can make really good sound out of bad gear by just using these combinations. So so here we have like a more compensating, a lot cheaper solution than Rockport. And I'm generally not a fan of B&W. Why did I not write the model? Okay, I'm sorry guys. But this is something called a B&W D3 800 model. Sorry. And there's a lot of this gear that I just don't like at all. And let's just look at Macintosh. Macintosh makes a lot of classes of gear within Macintosh. There's a lot of the older Macintosh gear, especially older lower models, that I would never ever ever want to listen to in my life. There's a lot of Pass Labs low models, integrated amps from the past that I would never ever want to listen to. And there's like some of the newer Accuphase stuff where I'm also like, dude, I'm never gonna listen to that. And especially with Mark Levinson, DCS, and M-Labs, and especially Meitner, there's a lot of that gear where I'm just like, you know, you're never gonna get me to listen to that, because it just feels like it's dying, it's thin, it's mechanical. But positive notes, B&W D3 800 model somehow makes all of that bad sound and kind of elevates it, you know, providing a very forgiving sound, a very deep sound stage that kind of catches all of this, you know, thin plastic two-dimensional transistor gear. I'm sorry, don't feel offended again, but this is just, for me, if I were to listen to it on a regular speaker, it would just sound really dead, really boring, really flat, really linear, suppressed in sound. Yeah, it does a lot of hell of stuff that's really, really, really cool, but you need this gear to speak the same language of what was originally intended with that sound, and that type of sound actually goes pretty well with the B&W D3800. Now, I generally don't like B&W. I think that the trebles that they make are very raw, harsh, unsophisticated, and I think that the mid-range is then generally like a numb, unsophisticated, plasticky sound. And I generally feel that the bass that B&W makes with a lot of their speakers is just big, thumpy, not integrated, not natural, gets in the way, and just works with a lot of low, really, really low quality gear. But I have to say that I have to admit and look at this subjectively and just think back at all the systems that I've heard with this particular B&W D3 800 model. I mean, that's a really good pairing for M-Labs, Meitner, DCS, Mark Levinson, Aquaphase, Macintosh. A lot of that gear that I would never ever have wanted to listen to because it was just really scrappy sound sounded suddenly a lot better. But also, I also find that a lot of people that have B&W speakers, for some reason, I don't know why, but many of them, they just don't have sidewalls. And you want sidewalls when you have B&W speakers, even though they are so big. And yes, I know that there's always a balance in life. And people like Steve Gutenberg, they always like to say, you want to pull your speakers out so they become more clear in sound and free and stuff like that. I get that. To a certain degree, you want to do that. You don't want to trap your speaker in a corner, so it's directly next to the sidewall and the back wall. You want some sort of a balance. But I feel that a lot of BMW owners don't have sidewalls. They have like 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 meters sometimes to the sidewalls, and I think that creates a lot of bass suck out, so that you're getting too much of that pretend hi-fi sound. So you want to keep the speaker in check. So I would generally, with a lot of speakers in this size, have a sidewall within 0.5 meter to 2 meters. Okay, I don't want 2 meters and more free to the left and to the right, even though it's a big speaker. I don't want that, because that means that the treble and the mid-range will just go nuts trying to deliver the signal to you. It will seem in bits and pieces instead of it all coming together. So yeah, you can make sound like this a hell of a lot better with a B&W D3 800 speaker. But that's, I would say this particular model is like the exception to the rule. So generally, I don't recommend B&W speakers, but this particular model I actually do with gear like that. But again, you know, everything belongs in a certain type of sound. I would never ever use B&W speakers on a Torhauge tube warm amplifier, you know. That is like 8, 10, 15 watts. You know, that's just going to be inappropriate. I would never use it with Negra gear. I would never use it with Spectral gear, with Audio Note gear in general. You could make that somehow work and sound good if you're lucky. If you did that, my hat goes off to you. Well done. But generally, that is a totally different type of sound, so I would stay clear of that. So again, just for those guys that haven't seen my previous videos, Macintosh gear. Don't ever in your life try and use Macintosh gear on thin, harsh, revealing speakers, like, for example, the cheapest Martin Design speakers, or the cheapest Verity speakers, or the cheapest, I don't know, Peak Consult speakers, or whatever. I generally don't recommend that, and I especially don't recommend doing that on thin, small, revealing speakers and analytical speakers in a room that's very big. Having small speaker in a big room, it's just going to suck out a lot of that naturalness, that warmness, that mid-range, thumpy bass, warm, whatever you call it. It's just going to make it very unpleasant, very unnatural. And that's a very good tip for you guys if you ever needed one. So there are probably some few people that can get away with that. And again, my hat off to you guys that can do that. But I've heard a lot of really, really bad combinations with Macintosh. I've heard like the, I think they're called like the Martin Design Gets speakers. And, you know, those are like decent, pretty good, okay speakers. But the problem is that it just goes totally against the Macintosh sound, making it extremely bright, analytical, mechanical. And then you just have like, with a lot of these Macintosh rooms that are big, it just sucks even more bass and naturalness out of it. So yeah, something that you guys need to know. Also consider Sonos Faber and Focal on these types of equipment. I'm talking about Meitner, DCS, M-Labs, Mark Levinson, Accuphase, Passlab, all these types of things. They are usually more for the higher or pretend higher level of gear. So, but again, you don't want to put like a Focal on a Negra setup or Spectral setup or Audio Note. You can still get away with that, but I wouldn't recommend that. So everything belongs in a certain price category and type of sound range. And yeah, Audio Note also makes compatible sound with transistor, but we're generally then into the lower class, going from ANJ model LX and then downwards towards the lower and cheaper models. And you can make that work actually with a lot of transistor gear where it sounds pretty good. I've heard that before, so you guys need to know that that is a possibility, and it's a way of saving a sound, so you don't have to use a hell of a lot of money. You can sell like an old Sonos Faber Focal speaker and get like, I don't know, 10-20,000 bucks for that, and then go with the much cheaper ANJ LX speaker for like, I don't know how much this is costing. I don't know how much that costs, 3, 4, 5,000 US dollars, and then still get a sound that is a lot better. Plus, you get money in your pockets selling these speakers. So it's doable. It's doable. These are the tools that you need in order to make that happen. So yeah, remember to look out for these tips and tricks in these videos and try and watch them all. You know, I'm probably an old guy ranting to some of you guys, and some of you probably hate me because I'm trashing Meitner, Lyngdorf, Macintosh, stuff like that you probably consider to be the best that you've heard. So I understand where you're coming from, and I fully respect that. So try and not get offended by my honesty, because I don't have any sponsor deals or any deals with any companies. So these are just like my humble private opinions about what I've tried that actually really repaired some of the sound that I did not like. And these aren't just my considerations. A lot of my friends have also heard these combinations and they agree with me. So I hope that gives it a bit more validity. And yeah, I hope that you can save a lot of money looking at my videos so your sound can get a lot better. So this is me logging out. Remember to like and subscribe so I can keep making good content that improves your sound. So me logging out. Bye.